Ankit Nagori and Mukesh Bansal may have started the fitness unicorn Cult.Fit together, but their journeys since then are a study in contrasts. On one hand is Cult.Fit. It's been a little over a year since Mukesh Bansal stepped down as the CEO. When the Ken reached out to him asking why, he clarified that he still remains involved. But involvement, of course, is a spectrum. Sometimes it means steering the company towards an IPO. Now, the catch is that while Cult.Fit wants to go public next year, there is no DHRP yet. There is also no FY25 data on the Ministry of Corporate Affairs website. And then you have Nagori's big bet, Cure.Foods. Quick history lesson, Cure.Foods was originally Eat.fit, the in-house health food startup of Cure.Fit Healthcare, which was once the parent company from which both Cult and Cure.Foods eventually spun out. Under Nagori's leadership, Cure.Foods went from 2 crores in revenue in FY21 to 775 crores in FY25. Now that is according to its draft IPO documents which were filed in June this year. Yes, Cure.Foods is also looking to go public. But unlike Cult, Nagori has a DHRP, a valuation, and a business that sells things that people eat. While Eat.fit was all about quinoa and millets, Cure.Foods eventually became about what sells. After all, the focus was to scale. So today, Eat.fit is just one of over 20 brands under the Cure.Foods umbrella, which now sells everything from millet bowls to Krispy Kreme donuts. It started out as a wellness vertical and it turned into a roll-up machine, but the numbers got the memo. Over at Cult.Fit, by contrast, the model is harder to explain and even harder to scale. Revenue crossed 1,000 crore rupees in the financial year 2024, but so did the losses. 850 crores that year after 600 crores the last year before. Bansal, however, claims that a corner has been turned. In his email, he said that FY25 losses are down, growth is steady, and profitability is somewhere on the calendar. Cult, he added, halved both EBITDA and PAT or profit after tax losses in the financial year 2025. Now, if you leave out the 319 crore non-cash impairment charge from FY24, the numbers do look a bit better. By the way, a non-cash impairment is an accounting adjustment where a company reduces the value of an asset on its books because it is no longer worth as much before. But no actual cash leaves the company. So, you see what I mean about contrasts. Nagori runs a logistics-optimized food tech. Bansal runs gyms, trainers, and subscription content in a country where 0.2% of adults pay for gym memberships and most end up cancelling in under 5 months. Clearly, Bansal chased the vision and Nagori chased output. Welcome to Daybreak, a business podcast from the Ken. I'm your host Nigdha Sharma and I don't chase the news cycle. Instead, every day of the week, my colleague Rahil Philippos and I will come to you with one business story that is worth understanding and worth your time. Today is Tuesday, the 5th of August. Mukesh Bansal has always told good stories. First with Myntra, then Flipkart, then Tata Digital, and now with his entry into AI. Unfortunately, good stories don't necessarily translate into cash flow. But he does have the founder credentials down cold. And that's what happens when you build a bunch of lucrative exits. But what hasn't been too hot has been execution. That is the big difference between Bansal and Nagori. Because while Bansal built brands, Nagori spent the last few years building steadily towards IPO readiness. People who have worked closely with Bansal describe him as a big canvas guy. Visionary, go-to-market strategies, category-creating plays, strong investor relationships, but not someone who gets into the operational weeds. He is great at imagining vertical integration, but struggles with ground-level execution is how one Cult executive put it. A senior executive remembers the Myntra transition from web to app as a case study in chaos. Hiring, firing, indecision, lots of vertical, not much integration. He told us how his job at Myntra was to look at certain data. But there were times when he ended up driving lorries personally to the warehouses. Bottom line is, too big to fail has always been Bansal's motto. And when ambition outpaces execution, investors tend to step in and take on the burden. Tiger Global and Axel rescued Myntra in 2013. Tiger stepped in for Cult during COVID. Cure.Foods was eventually spun out. Axel, Tiger Global, Kalari Capital, Chirate Ventures, all long term allies of Bansal, invested in both Myntra and Cult. Axel has even backed Bansal's latest AI venture, Nurix. Whether it was Myntra, where he spotted fashion as the next big e commerce wave, or Cult, where he attempted to digitize the gym experience, or now Nurix, riding the AI hype, Bansal's eye for big trends has never been in question. The Cult executive that we just spoke about recalled how Bansal reimagined gym and yoga membership. He sold them like products, but that is how Cult stood apart intuitively. Yet, profitability and sustainability have always been elusive. In fact, if you think about it, across all his ventures, the one thing that stands out is that Bansal has still not managed to build a single profitable company. Now, India's fitness economy is large in theory and tricky in practice. It is a 8 lakh crore or $98 billion market according to strategy consulting firm Redseer. But most of that spending comes from the richest 35% of Indians. The average Indian's annual fitness spend lies somewhere between 4,000 to 10,000 rupees. Besides, gym penetration is just a tenth of the US rate. And among those who do join, 80% quit within the first 5 months. Renewals are typically rare because most people sign up only to learn the basics and then go solo. So, Cult did what many growth stage companies do, it pivoted. From owning fitness centers to franchising them. It moved to franchisee owned, franchisee operated, and franchisee owned, company operated models. Today, it runs over 700 gyms and 17 Cult Sport stores across formats. Cult has also shifted focus from fitness services to fitness products. Now it is taking on decathlon. It has realized that the gear market is growing steadily, and that might take Cult from 1x to 2x. But the thing is, VCs want 10x. And to succeed further, Cult would have to go public at a competitive price. Bansal, according to the former executive, perhaps saw the limits early. He saw where Cult was headed after COVID, and that is why he tried to forge a deal with Tata Digital, a Flipkart Myntra redux of sorts, but it did not materialize. However, Bansal maintains that Cult continues to be a part of the Tata ecosystem and is listed on the Tata New app even today. And since then, he stayed busy. He brought in backers like Zomato. He co-founded Lizcraft, a fashion and retail innovation firm, in 2023 with Zomato's co-founder and Make My Trips ex-CEO Mohit Gupta. In 2024, he launched Nurix, a conversational AI startup. Meanwhile, Krishna Swamy took over as the CEO at Cure.Fit Healthcare. Bansal remains the largest individual shareholder at Cult, but in terms of operations, the center of gravity has clearly shifted. More on this in the next segment. Stay tuned. The Ken spoke to Umesh Chandra Paliwal of Unlisted Zone. He described Nagori as a deeply hands-on person. He said he is aggressively scaling kitchens, acquiring brands, and expanding to new geographies. He pointed out that shows clarity, confidence, and that is what IPO investors care about. But they also tend to notice when that is missing. Compared to that, Paliwal says Bansal's attention seems divided. Bansal, meanwhile, disagrees. In his email to the Ken, he stated that he was still executive chairman, deeply engaged in long-term strategy, IPO journey, and new initiatives. But while Bansal promises vision, Nagori is delivering output. Curefoods now runs 5 central kitchens and more than 500 service locations across 70 plus cities. It is not without issues though. The company has 8 criminal proceedings against its directors. Attrition is over 100% too. Still, investors seem willing to look past the churn. Curefoods last raised funds at a 3,800 crore rupee valuation, implying a market cap to sales ratio of 5.3 times, which is pretty decent for a consumer-facing brand, according to Paliwal. Both Curefoods and Cult, for all their differences, share one thing. They've grown by acquiring their way forward. But Curefoods, with a smaller footprint and less complexity, has seen fewer hiccups, fewer restructures, fewer complaints, and more consistency. But to be fair, Cult still has the stronger brand. It is the OG fitness platform here in India, which means national recall value. They made fitness accessible to lakhs of people who had never even stepped into a gym. But while visibility matters, Cult is struggling to push past that. India's wellness market may be large, but it is also top heavy, fragmented, and culturally uphill. You cannot build an IPO case on willpower. Food, on the other hand, just needs hunger.
Daybreak is produced from the newsroom of The Ken, India's first subscriber-focused business news platform. What you're listening to is just a small sample of our subscriber-only offerings. A full subscription unlocks daily long-form feature stories, newsletters, and podcast extras. To subscribe, head to theken.com and click on the red subscribe button on top of the Ken website. Today's episode was hosted by Snigdha Sharma and edited by Rajiv CN.